Hi, this is Welcome to Self, and I'm your host, Dr. Hayley Quinn, fellow human, business owner, and the anti-burnout business coach. I'm here for service-based business owners like you to help you increase your own self-care and self-compassion, change the relationship you have with yourself and your business, and help you elevate your business to a new level so you can live the full and meaningful life you desire. We are all on a continual learning journey, so let's learn together. Welcome to Self is a place where you can come and learn about the practices that will assist you as a business owner and get tips on how to engage in your business in a way that is sustainable for you. You will realise that you're not alone in the ways that you struggle, because at times we all do. And I'm happy to share with you what I've learned through my own struggles and my experiences of running businesses. You can join me as I chat to wonderful guests and have your curiosity piqued about various topics. And I'll also bring you solo bite-sized business episodes that can easily fit into your day. This is a place to remember that you are human first and have different tasks in your business and different roles in your life that need your attention. And for that, you need to take care of yourself in the best way you can. This is a place of nourishment, growth, and helpful information. A place where you can learn ways to assist you and your business to thrive. Because remember, if you thrive, your business can too. Now let's get to the episode. Hi, and welcome back to another episode. I've got another great guest episode for you today, and I'm excited to introduce her. I first met my next guest a few years ago when she spoke about copywriting in a coaching program I was a part of. Her energy captured me straight away, and I started following her on social media. Fast forward, and I engaged with some of her free and paid content, and last year decided I wanted to work more closely with her, so I joined her mastermind. As a coach, well, in all of my businesses, I've always made sure I have my own support. I think it's so important that we have people in our lives and businesses that support us, cheerlead us, teach us, and keep us on track when there's too many shiny things and brilliant new ideas. So let me tell you about my guest. Anita Siek is a lawyer turned brand strategist and copywriter, and CEO of Wordfetti, a human-centered brand strategy and copywriting house specializing in helping brands that don't do normal create a dent in their industry through the power of psychology and words. With a big passion for words, language, and how the delicate choices of how they can trigger different emotions and feelings in a reader, Anita and her team at Wordfetti are on a mission to spread the power of words, one of the most powerful tools we as humans have, in igniting world-changing ideas, provoking thought, and driving meaningful action and results. Anita's work has been featured on Forbes, Mumbrella, Smart Company, Thrive, and more. And some of her clients include Australia's largest insurance group, IAG, Challenge DV, formerly known as Australia's CEO Challenge, Lack of Colour, the Khalil Hotel Group, and Luna Bronze. Anita is an inspiring and remarkable woman who runs multiple businesses and aligns so well with my thinking about how life and business best interact. She is definitely a woman to pay attention to, and I have no doubt that you'll get a lot out of this episode. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Anita to the podcast. Hey Anita, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be a good one. I'm excited.
Awesome. So can we just start with perhaps you telling us a little bit about yourself and what led you to the work that you're doing? A little bit about who is Anita Siek?
A little bit of walk down memory lane. I can do that. So hello, everyone. So I am Anita. I would love to say I had a very linear journey to doing what I do today, but it is very non-linear. I used to be a lawyer. And I don't know, I climbed the corporate ladder the thing that you're supposed to do. Went to university. I studied law and psychology. Actually, originally law and commerce,
Yeah.
but then I was just not excited about the commerce bit. So I said to my parents, okay, I'm doing law because you wanted me to do law, but can I please choose something for myself? And they were like, okay, fine. So I swapped commerce to psychology. And then, yeah, became a lawyer because that's what you do after 6.5 years. And did it too because that was what I grew up knowing my parents wanted me to do, being a lawyer
Yeah.
or a doctor. Climbed the corporate ladder and felt empty, Hayley,
Yeah.
like very empty. Had my eyeballs on this role that I thought was the role that I wanted and that I would have made it if I got it. I got it and I felt empty. Like I was just like, oh, where is the confetti cannon? Where is like all the cool things that are supposed to happen once I reach this role? And then that was when I was like, okay, well, there is something
Yeah.
missing. So I started to create, side businesses or side hustles.
Mm.
Don't love the word hustle, but like side businesses, uh, just to tap into my creative outlet. I had two other businesses before Wordfetti, which is my business now. So just really quickly, I did photography. So I
Yeah.
took photos at people's weddings, events. It was so much fun. But it was not my thing. Like
Yeah.
I still love taking photos, but it is just not my thing. I was a food blogger as well at that stage. And then I moved to starting a little small business with my mom because she loves plants. So she has like a beautiful rainforest literally in her house always, whereas I kill cacti and kill terrariums. So that was not going to be a vibe when people were emailing us asking me about plants and why their plants are dying. And I'm like, mine is too.
Yeah. Same,
My
same.
solution, yeah, same. My solution is my mum. Anyway, that didn't work. So Wordfetti began, and that was, gosh, almost 6, 7 years ago. And
Wow.
it was born purely because of my love for language and words. I love words. I grew
Yeah.
up in a household where I learned like 4 or 5 languages at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that we all have this medium that we all have to connect. And yeah, share stories and messages with each other. So
Mm.
yeah, here we are today. So Wordfetti is now a dedicated like business to teach online businesses and copywriters alike how they can really stand out and convert through the power of words and psychology and understanding of consumer psychology. And yeah, here I am.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I love a windy road story. I have a very windy road
Wendy.
story myself, and I do like to hear that it's not just me, which of
Mm-mm.
course I know it's not. But let's start with you stepping away from this hard-earned profession as a lawyer to become a copywriter and business owner. I'm curious about what were some of the challenges you faced, and what would you say to someone else who's kind of dreaming of changing careers but scared to take that step? Because I think there's lots of people doing things that actually aren't lighting them up, you know?
Mm. I would probably say the top two challenges I experienced in that wobble was one, guilt for my parents, from my parents, or not from my parents, sorry, just guilt in general, because I grew up with them being like, oh my gosh, we worked so hard to put you in the best private school in Brisbane and, like all the tutoring and all of that. And there was just this weight, this uh,
Mm.
backpack that I was carrying that I was like, if I did anything else, that would be a disappointment to my
Yeah,
parents because they had worked so hard and sacrificed so much. And I'm an only child. So I'm like, oh my gosh, all the weight. So that would be the first thing, my first wobble.
yeah,
I think the second wobble was this more probably just me personally. I didn't my both my parents are business owners, so it's not like I've never seen what it's like. But I think the second element to it is I went into it, not feeling like it would be the thing, like, it would be the thing, like, I did it on the side, even when I was sharing with you the story, like, it was always the side hustle.
yeah.
And if it wasn't for this sliding door event, so the sliding door event for me was I got promoted. I got promoted in my role in the government, and I, one, felt empty, but also two, it met with a bit of backlash from people that was in the team. And I'm gonna just quickly say, like 90% of the team were incredible. They were
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, amazing." But then the 10% of the team would just you could just feel it. Like, it was almost like, "Who is this person?" Um, I'm also Asian. I was in my mid or early 20s, and I have just moved up, like, 4 or 5, like, ranks, literally into a senior position, and they are like, "What? Who is this? We have been here probably for, like, 10, 20 years," and I get it. I get it. I do get it. But in that moment, it was the first time I had ever experienced an element of, from exclusion to people rolling their eyes when I'm talking, to being excluded from meetings, to
Wow.
just you could feel it. It's an energy that I just felt, and that was my sliding door moment,
Mm.
where so after I got promoted, 3 months later was when I actually quit, which was a
Wow. Go on
shock
you.
to my director because he was like, "Wait, what?
Yeah.
Why? You
We
just
just
got a
promoted
promotion."
you.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, "No, like, I don't like, this is the time." Like, if and this is what I wanna say to anyone who is on the
Mm.
fence, on the edge, this is the time. Like, there is no other time. You can't wait until you make X amount so that you feel better leaving the corporate job. Because that was in my head. I was like, "If I made, like, 6 figures," which is what it was getting to, "If I made 6 figures in my, business, small business, then I can leave my corporate job." But I was only giving it side gig energy, so how can I expect it to give me
Yeah.
this thing? Like, and don't get me wrong, there could be exceptions. You could have it could happen, but
Yeah.
that was the time. And I remember almost not even it was a no-brainer. Like, I literally
Yeah.
was just like, "This just does not feel right for me," and I would much rather not have a job than to feel like this every day. Because I was crying, Hayley. Like, I would be
Mm.
devastated every day after work and be like, "I don't understand, like, why people are being like this
Yeah.
to me." It feels uncomfortable. Um, there is no other time though, because in my head, I'm like, "What is the worst thing that can happen?" I go out there, give this business that I've created my best shot. It doesn't work. But guess what? I've still got skills that I've added on throughout
Yeah.
the X amount of years. Yes, I could probably apply for another role in government. I could get a role in McDonald's if I want to. Like, I will be okay. Like,
Yeah.
I will be okay. But there is only one chance. Now that is a fork in the road. You either continue living life with this, and I was like, I'm not going to be happy in this for the next
Yeah.
5 years, or I try something different. And
Yeah.
that was when I, yeah, took the leap and
Yeah.
didn't tell my mum for a year.
Oh my gosh. But it's that really tuning into yourself, isn't it? It was like you being aware of how you were feeling and what that was like for you and the energy that you felt in that
Mm,
workplace that helped you decide. And a lot of the work I do with people is really getting them to understand themselves and tune into how they're feeling. Because until we can do
yes.
that, we can't make good choices for ourselves, right? You could have kept turning up to that same job feeling really depleted, really distressed by it. I mean, you know, I know you, Anita, and it doesn't surprise me that you kind of worked your way up the ranks really quickly. And you were going to do that in whatever you do. So why not do it for yourself? Because obviously you've started what you're doing and you're very successful with that. I'd like to talk to you about a couple of things today. One around the copywriting stuff, because I think a lot of people listening, a lot of us struggle with that. We kind of know what we want to say. We don't always know how we want to say it. So I think copywriting is a really important thing, but also some stuff around business.
Yep.
So can we start with the copywriting stuff around why do you think words and messaging are so important for a business?
Yep. 3 big reasons. 1, words, language is the central medium in how you and I connect and communicate. It is like the key to communication for us as humans. It's how we share ideas, it's how we share stories, it's how we then create that element of connection so that people feel like, "Oh, I trust you, Hayley. I trust you, Anita. Or I feel like you get me." And that is when connections are formed. And before conversion is connection. So
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest reasons why words, language, messaging is important. The second reason is how we as consumers actually make a purchasing decision. I'm a big believer in the fact that there are three key questions that indirectly your audience are actually asking before they're ready to go, yep, I am in, or yep, I want to buy this, or add to cart. And that is why this, why now, and why you.
Yeah.
If you cannot communicate that and say why this, which is why this solution, why this offer, why this product, why you, in other words, out of all the other brands or people that could also help me solve this problem, why should I choose you or your offer? And then why now is the element of prioritization, because
Yeah.
the reason why some people do not take action is like it's not because they may not see like value potentially, or that you don't have a great product or an offer. It's because they do not see the priority of them taking action now. There is something that is above that. So when it comes to copywriting and messaging, this is where we can convey through language the real value of what we're actually selling and what we're actually offering out there to the world. And the final thing is, which is a bit of an extension of what I've just mentioned there, it has the ability to make you complete, like just stand out and
Yeah.
actually convey the real value of what you're actually offering. If
Yeah.
you're a service-based business, you're not just selling based on hours.
Yeah.
It's so much, and this is very easy for, and I'm an ex-lawyer as well. So it's like, it's a very traditional way of looking at how you charge. But that is, I believe, controversial opinion, but I believe that's setting so many service-based businesses up to fail, this way of thinking
Yeah.
where you're charging it based on hour, because guess what? You've only got so many hours in the day and you're going to be capped,
Mm.
right? So, copywriting and messaging really invites us to actually look at the value of what we're delivering beyond just 1 hour, 2 hours, or beyond just maybe the features and benefits of a product, but
Yeah.
actually, what does the service or the product actually do for you, and how
Yeah.
can you communicate it in a way that is clear and succinct and is memorable?
Yeah. So many reasons, isn't it? And again, you touch on that, really conveying what it is you're offering, but also who you are as the person offering it. And I
Mm,
come back to this, and I come back to this with everything that I do is, and so you need to understand yourself, because you need to understand yourself to know what it is that you bring to the table. And I think the other thing, when you were talking about this is the way we communicate, is the importance of this in both spoken and written medium, so that we are accessible to people. Not everybody can read the stuff, not everybody can hear the things that we say. So that importance of using our words, even on things like social media, making sure we've got captions
100%.
and things happening when we're
Totally.
speaking. I think that always comes to mind for me is, we need to make sure that we're being accessible for other people.
Yes.
What would you say to somebody who thinks they really can't write? They're like, oh, but I really can't write, or I don't know how to get the ideas out of my head. What would you say to them? Apart from join your wonderful Wordfetti club.
Here is what I'd say. We all know how to write. Uh, we were taught it in school. We were taught it in high school, primary school, kindy, uni, college. But here is the biggest misconception.
Mm,
Uh, how we were taught to write in school is very different to what copywriting actually is. And
yeah,
this is maybe an old element of just us thinking writing is like red markers, this is wrong. You got a B plus for this because you didn't do this.
yeah,
Uh, and you were critiqued. Literally, if we really think about how writing was in school, you
yeah,
were critiqued, even from assessments to assignments. You were critiqued with a red marker. This is right. This is wrong. So,
yeah,
of course, then going into the real world, you're going to be like, oh no, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to
yeah,
get it wrong. I forgot my comma here. I forgot my, like, how do I start a sentence? So, already we're starting in, for example, a professional world, already feeling that
yeah,
anxiety or that fear that we're going to get it wrong.
yeah,
But copywriting is not getting the commas and grammar. absolutely chef kiss. And I say this again, slightly controversial, but half of the most memorable messaging and taglines have zero grammar. Like,
Yeah.
got milk, zero grammar. Like, that does not make sense. Got
Yeah.
milk. It should really say, have you got milk? Right.
Yeah.
So when we think about it from this lens of writing and copywriting is completely different. Copywriting, and this is what I would say to someone who is like, I cannot write and I cannot get my words out. The biggest part of copywriting is your ability to translate and trust what's in your mind, in your words, and translate that out there into language and words. Like, translate the brilliance out of your head onto paper, into words. If you do not trust in what you're about to say, if you do not have confidence in what you're selling, of course the words are going to be blocked. So
Yeah.
this is where it's almost like, instead of thinking that it's just about grammar, getting it right, like, take the time to ask those questions. Like, why should people buy your product or what, or your offer? Why should they choose you? Once you have that structure, the words will flow a lot easier if you allow yourself and trust yourself instead of approaching it from a space of fear. Oh no, I'm going to get it wrong. You can't get
Yeah.
it wrong. You can always edit. You
Yeah.
can always edit.
Absolutely. Oh,
So that is what I would say. Everyone can write, but a lot of it is in trusting and taking
yeah.
imperfect action, and also
Yeah.
to recognizing that copywriting is simply a conversation you're having with your audience.
Yeah, so practicing and building confidence. Can I add as well, I think one of the things that we learn in school and in higher education as well is do not have an original thought.
Oh yeah.
Regurgitate whatever it is that you're
Yeah.
reading or researching. And the beauty about when we start copywriting is it's all our original thoughts, isn't it? Or not necessarily all original thoughts, but we can bring ourselves to that. And one of the things I do for myself, because if I start writing or typing, I can get a bit stuck. We have very formal, a psychologist, we have very formal ways of writing. And when I go to type something, I can find myself in this quite formal way of doing it.
Mm.
So what I've started doing is I speak it into an AI program and have it translate. So it is like a conversation. And I find
Oh,
that is like my first draft, so that it's not this
yes.
formal, so and so reported and blah, blah.
That is a really great strategy, and I, even though it's not like you in front of a computer typing, I vouch for that because sometimes we are like, it does come a lot easier.
Yeah.
We use words every day, so
Yeah.
don't tell me that you can't write. Like, we use words every day. It's just the matter of actually writing it that
Yeah.
makes you feel like, "Oh, no, I need to get it right the first
Yeah.
time." And, one of the other things that I have found to be really helpful, and this is one key strategy I would recommend for anyone who is feeling stuck with getting the words out, because the next question listeners may have is like, okay, cool, but like, how do I get my words out? Is I really want you to think of that one person you're actually writing to. Like,
Yeah.
literally, as you're about to type or you're about to record what you want to say, really, if you have to close your eyes, like, literally close your eyes or think about that person, their frustrations, their fears, they're sitting in front of you, and what would you say to them? Right? What would you say to them? You're not going to talk to them in a way that is, you know, this brief contains evidence that is going, like, you're not going to get all corporatey.com, right? You're going to be like, recent statistics have actually shown this, which is crazy because A, B, and C. So it's like, think of that person in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. We're communicating with a human, aren't we? We're not just communicating with a keyboard. We're communicating with a
Yes.
human being. Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
I think that's so helpful. Thank you. I think people really find that those little ways of just getting started can be helpful, and that understanding that we have been taught in a way that isn't how we want to be writing as business owners,
Mm.
unless we're doing formal reports and things, of course, and then
Of
go beyond.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also just flexing that muscle too. Like, I would highly
Yeah.
recommend just letting yourself write with no real objective, because
Yeah.
as soon as you write, you think you have to get it right. But like, if you just let yourself, even there's like morning pages where you can just write with
Yeah.
no agenda. Like, you're just letting what's in your mind and what's coming into your mind out there into words. No one has to see it, but it's just
Yeah.
practicing the muscle of writing.
Yeah.
Still writing.
Absolutely. I recently started writing for a magazine, and one of the
Ah,
things I love about that is just this creative space to just write, submit something.
love that.
If I don't want to do it, I don't, but I'm quite committed to like, no, I'm going to do that because it's building my writing muscle and I'm really loving it.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. So you run a couple of businesses with different services. And one of the things I really love about you and was attracted to working with you, because of course I'm in your mastermind, Anita, which is wonderful. And one of the things I was really attracted to you is not only are you an amazing businesswoman, you're very inspiring as I watched you. You and I kind of met many years ago in another coaching thing where you came in and spoke about copywriting. And your energy captured me at that point, and I started following you on social media, as I think often happens with people. We start kind of stalking people on social media and checking you out. And then I was very inspired about how you run your businesses and the way you operate. And one of the things I love is your commitment to making sure that your businesses also align with the way you want to live. That's something that's very close to my heart. That's something I work with people in my programs with. Could you share with our audience some of the things that you keep in mind to ensure that you're running a sustainable business and taking care of yourself as a business owner?
Yes. Okay, before I do that, I do want to highlight the moment that actually got me to think the way that, because I did not start off like this. I did not start the business and like, yeah, I'm going to include self-care today and then I'm going to go for a walk. No,
Yeah,
like for
no,
the
no.
first like for
We
the
all
first
have one of
half,
those
yeah, yeah, yeah.
stories.
For the first like 3, and it was ugly, okay? Like for the first
Yep.
like 2, 3 years, I hustled. I hustled
Yeah.
because I went from side hustle to then this business, and then I was working for 6, 7 days. I worked like 10, 12-hour days, and it was not healthy. I burnt
Yeah.
out. I blacked
Yeah.
out actually,
Wow.
before a photo shoot, and I still went to the photo shoot. Like, so my husband
Yeah.
now took me to the doctors and he was like, "Oh yeah, you should probably just rest. Do you want me to write you a doctor's certificate?" I'm like, funny, funny. No, you cannot write me a doctor's certificate because that won't work. Anyway, how do I, that was a big reason. It was a
Yeah.
big wake up call for me.
Yeah.
My health deteriorated. I blacked out. I had
Mm,
to reschedule a lot of things and I felt bad, like just felt bad in general, physically, mentally, everything.
yeah.
The business, ironically, was actually doing great.
Yeah.
Everything was great, externally, internally, profit wise, but I felt really sad and down and exhausted and almost resentful, which
Yeah.
again were all these feelings where I'm like, but what, like, how dare you feel resentful? Like, people would love these leads. People would love to be able to work with, work with these brands. And I was so grateful. But then I was also met with this feeling of, why do I feel so, like I was starting to dread Mondays, if I'm to be honest.
Yeah.
So I took, back then, that was 2019, 2020. I took
Yeah.
like a 6-week break. I always take an extended break over Christmas and New
Yeah.
Year's,
Same.
but I took an extra extended break that time because my body needed it. And I was like, like, this is not it. Like, this is not it. Like, I had been creating this business up until now based on this success definition
Yeah.
that is not mine. Like,
Yeah.
I was seeing other agencies, I was seeing other service-based businesses being booked out and, growing based on hiring more people, and I did not for one moment, and this sounds like crazy now I've come to think of it, I did not for one moment pause and consider, what does it look like for me? What do I
Yeah.
want it to look like? What does success actually look like for me, and what do I want it to
Yeah.
be?
So
And
important.
it
So
is.
important.
And when I
Yeah.
look into it, I was like, I was never also asked what I wanted growing up. No,
No.
no, no shade to my parents. I love them and they did the best that they could with what they
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
But never was I once asked by them or any of my family members, Anita, what do you want? How do you feel? What would you like? It was like lawyer or doctor.
Yeah.
So it was very much like it doesn't matter what I want. It was always whatever people wanted. And that was a big wake-up call for me. I was like, whoa, I
Yeah.
was literally creating my life based on other people's success definitions. And I
Yeah.
see this so often, Hayley, like where people online look at coaches and they're
Yeah.
like, oh wow, she's got a 7-figure business or 8-figure business, and I want that. But do you?
Do you
Do
really?
you
Yeah.
actually, do you
And do you
want
want
that
what
entire, yeah,
yeah.
the
Because do you want what
entirety,
goes with it to get to that place
right?
as well?
And you
But I
also don't know, right, what's
yeah.
going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you make some really important points there. Of one, I think so many people learn the hard way about taking care of
Mm.
themselves, but also the piece around like just pushing and pushing and keeping on going. And you mentioned that, your parents had these expectations, you're going to be a lawyer or doctor, and there was this sense of kind of guilt and disappointing them. So I wonder if that played into it. Okay, well,
Oh
if I'm not going to
yeah.
be a lawyer or doctor, I'm going to have a business, but I'm going to have the best business there is, and
Yeah,
it's going to be
10x
so
it. Yeah.
successful.
But also, I didn't know what that actually looked like either.
Yeah,
Like, it was purely from then, like back then, it was purely measured by money. Like, if
yeah,
I'm to be honest, it was purely like, okay, well, I will make this much. Okay, I will double
yeah,
it. And then I would meet it. And then I'm like, okay, I guess we
yeah,
go more. Like,
yeah.
terrible way of measuring the success of your business. Like, it should never
Yeah,
be, if I was to say one thing, do not measure the success of your business purely based on money. Because
like dollars. No.
if you're telling me that someone makes a 7-figure business or a 6-figure, whatever it is that you aspire to have, but then they are working themselves to the bone, they have no time with their kids, they cannot travel, which I love traveling, they cannot do half the things that make them feel more
Yeah.
them. That is not success to me. Like, that
No,
is
and
not
I
success.
and I think we need to call out as well that a lot of people out there in online world that are promoting 6, 7, 8 figure businesses are not telling you that it takes you nearly that much money to get the revenue. Like your
Oh
profit
yeah.
matters. Your revenue is one thing. You could have a
Yeah.
$1 million business. It's
That's
costing
it.
you, everything but $10,000 to actually get the $1 million, and you walk home with $10,000.
Or like you're at a loss. Like, that's also not,
Exactly. So I think we need to
sustainable.
be careful, don't we? But again, it's coming back to you're talking about your definition of success. And we need to know ourselves and we need to tune in and understand that.
Mm.
I covered these things in the program I work with business owners, where you've really got to slow down and think about what does success mean for you? Because so I mean, I'm assuming you've got more of a picture of what that means because
Yeah.
you live a life that doesn't look like you're just powering on trying to make loads and loads of money. Um, you're creating businesses and a life that are full of things that you enjoy, yeah?
Yeah. I think a really big realization for me too that I hadn't yet shared on with you yet, Hayley, on this podcast is a big wake up call for me too. Was I lost my dad quite suddenly, and
Yeah.
that was through terminal cancer, and I was his carer up until the very end. But I saw him work literally on it, literally on his deathbed, literally taking
Wow.
calls on his laptop, working, taking calls. It's like, I was like, and there's an element of grief I have on that because I'm like, that makes me sad, so
Yeah.
sad that the final days of his life was this hustle and this chase for this thing that he may never actually fully be able to
Yeah.
experience. And I don't, like, I looked at that and I'm like, I don't want that. Like, that to
Yeah.
me is
Yeah.
not success, because then you don't get to also spend time with your kids as much
Yeah.
until you're literally diagnosed with terminal cancer. And life is, you don't know when life is going to flip. You don't know
No.
when that line finishes. I've met people who are literally, I'm not trying to get all negative, but it's like I've met people who just passed literally just like that in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, in their
Yeah.
50s, unexpected. And that's the
Yeah.
thing, like, we are pouring so much energy into this thing called business or work, not to say I don't care. I love the work that I do. I love
Yeah.
business and all of
Yeah.
that. But the thing is, we're missing out on life.
Yeah.
We are do not create a business so much so that it takes you away from life and you're
Yeah.
not living and you're literally not living because there is so
Yeah.
much beauty in the world to see. I love traveling. There's so much in the world to see, to experience, but we just continuously get ourselves into this rhythm where it's like, once I get this,
Yeah.
then I will this. Once I reach, like, get to Christmas, then I will rest. Well, no, that's a
Yeah.
terrible way of looking
Can't
at it.
work
You
like
should
that,
be
hey?
you should be resting, doing the things that you love every day. Why can't you? You can. You are the
Absolutely.
time creator of your life.
And you make some such valuable points, and I'm so sorry about the loss of your dad, and what a thing for you to see as well happening.
Mm,
But how wonderful that you've taken the learning from that, because not everybody does. People see things and experience things in life, and we don't always take the learnings, and you have, and it's to your benefit. And I don't think you're getting negative. It's interesting when I always think when people start to talk about death, or that life isn't forever, and we have this thing of like, oh, maybe that's a negative thing to talk about. I think we
it's
almost need
morbid.
to talk about it more in life, because
No, I agree.
it
Yeah.
helps us when we realize that we don't have infinite time. We are able to make decisions that serve us better in the present moment, I think. When we know
Yes.
we don't know, tomorrow isn't promised to any of us. This afternoon isn't promised to any of us, right?
True. Yeah.
Um, we get to make different decisions. And,
That's it.
there's some beautiful research where people have been interviewed at the end of their lives, and not one of them said, I wish I'd spent more time at the office.
Yeah, no. Or like,
You
I
know?
wish I worked harder. Like,
No,
no.
no. It's about
Oh,
connection and time with loved
that's it.
ones and doing
That's
meaningful
it.
activities. So I think I'm glad you raised that, because I think it's really, really important.
It's so important. I think, like, I grew up very quickly throughout that whole thing, but it's almost like,
Yeah,
uh, it makes me seeing that made me sad, like I said, because I feel like
yeah,
dad never really got to live.
yeah,
But so many people are actually doing this now, like all
yeah,
around us. And if you're
yeah.
listening at the moment, like, pause and literally
Mhm.
consider, like, what do you want? Like, what does
Yeah,
success actually feel like and look like for you? Like, what are the priorities of you and your life? And does that actually align with where you're spending your time every day?
yeah,
Because if you're saying you care a lot about your kids and you want to spend more and but then you have no time, and it's not about spending 5 hours with them, like, it's just quality time.
yeah,
Like, half an hour could be better than 3 hours where you're spending with them where you're on your phone, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Starting to really tune in again, getting to know yourself, tune in. And
Mm.
this stuff can be really scary for people. And I get that. There can be a lot of fears, blocks, and resistances that show up to people saying, well, actually, I want to start prioritizing my own needs, or I want to start doing things differently in my life. But there are ways to work through that.
Yeah.
You and I have both had that kind of journey of doing things a particular way and crashing and burning, and then learning from it and coming up with new ways to live kind of
Yep.
sustainable and thriving lives that we enjoy, and running successful businesses that we enjoy as well, but not that are completely depleting us.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. No.
Yeah. So of all of that, what are the things you do kind of on the regular to take care of yourself? Because like you say, you don't wait till Christmas to rest. That's not a good plan at all,
Yep.
people. So what are some of the sort of daily, monthly, weekly things you
Yeah.
might do?
A number of things. I'll try to just speak to the ones that are coming to my head right now. I put in my holidays first. So when
Same.
put in my holidays first always, I then design everything else around it.
Yeah.
Um, I go for heaps of walks. I I would also say that when I'm feeling stressed or there's a lot of things on my plate, that used to be an alert system for me to be like, "Oh, no, keep pushing on so I can smash out as many things as possible so that tomorrow it
Mm,
will be less." But now
yeah.
it's almost like I need to double down on my self-care even more, and
Yes. Yes.
I adore this about you and your approach and everything that you teach and your program, and that is why I adore working with you as well, because you're so, you know about that element of
Yeah.
self-care is not just for Saturdays,
Yeah.
self-care is not just for, the end of the year. Like, it needs to be a big part of your
Yeah.
everyday, and that looks
Yeah.
different for everyone,
Yeah.
right? So I could say I go for walks, I go to saunas, I go to ice baths, but for some people, they're like, "Whoa, ice bath, whoa, sauna, no thank you." So you've
Yeah.
gotta find what it works for you. So yeah,
Yeah.
saunas, ice baths. I do go to the gym. I try to go to the gym at least 4 times a week, go to saunas every single week, ice baths as well. Um, the other element for me too is alone time.
Yeah.
Love my husband, but when I say alone time, I mean also alone time from him.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
from everyone, and I am just alone in my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And I usually take myself on a solocation, so I'll
Yeah.
book myself somewhere.
Yeah.
I've done this now for 3, 4 years since that moment where I got, just I was burnt out.
Yeah.
I've done it since, and it's a very uncomfortable first couple of days. Like, so I'll usually book like 5 days. It'll be very uncomfortable for me for the first 2, 3 days. But then I'm like, "Huh," like, I feel like then I'm dialing out the external noise and dialing up the internal things, and things that are really important, things I wanna feel, and
Yeah.
everything is more vivid when
Yeah.
I'm just alone. Like, I can hear the birds, I can see everything
Yeah.
in so much color. So I do that as well. I do that every year. What are some of the things? Travel. I love traveling. That's a
Yeah.
big part for me that just fills my cup,
Yeah.
a lot. And I think the other thing too for me is and again, like to everything we've been talking about on this episode, I also lean in a lot into what I need now. Like,
Yeah.
I might wake up, or I might have planned a full on week and being like, "Yep, boom, 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 boom." But then I might wake up one day and be like, "Wow, I do not feel the best." And because the work that I do is quite deep and immersive, and also um, creative in the realm
Yeah.
of copywriting and teaching, and I do bring the energy,
Yeah. Oh, you
there
do.
is more reason. Oh, yeah, I do. But it's almost like that is even more reason I need to look after myself, because in
Absolutely.
order for me to best show up to my students, my clients, my family, Dean, everyone, my friends, everyone else
Yeah.
around me, I need to make sure I am protecting my energy and looking after myself. So, um, that's another thing, like saying no to events that do not spark joy for me.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
you're
another
speaking my
thing, even though
language. You're speaking my language. And, for some people, all those things aren't necessarily available. I think,
Mm,
you and I speak from a place of privilege, and we can do some
totally.
of these things. And not everybody can do that. But I think there's ways we can do that that don't cost money, that we don't have to go places. Like having that time for yourself can
Mm,
be going and shutting yourself in a room in the house, or
that's
going down
right.
to the bottom of the garden, or sitting out on a balcony, or wherever you happen to
Yes.
be.
Going for a walk, that's my alone time every day. I
Yeah.
mean, with my dogs, but still
And
alone.
yeah, and even if something like that's not possible, if somebody accessibility wise can't go for
Mm,
a walk, is finding ways that fit for them to just slow down and
mm,
tune in. And you mentioned that checking in with yourself. One of my greatest life hacks has been just slowing down, regulating my nervous system, checking in. Hey, Hayley, how you going? What do you need right now?
I
And
love
then
that.
listening to what I say, listening to that inner wisdom and acting on that. And then, really dialing into what works for me with my budget, with my time, with my family circumstance, all that sort of stuff. But the important thing is, isn't it, is that there's something that you're doing on a regular basis where you're connecting with what you need as an individual to take care of
It
yourself. Yeah.
That's it. That took a bit of time for me to
Yeah.
actually even dial up that internal voice, because again, no
Yeah.
one's ever really asked. It's like no
Yeah.
one's ever, but you've got to ask yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it does take time. I think about when I started to change the relationship with myself, I thought to myself, if I was trying to get to know somebody new, what would I do? Well, I would listen to what they had to say. I would ask them open and curious questions
Mm,
and pay attention to the answers. And that's what I started doing with myself. I'm like, well, okay, I don't know myself well, or I didn't have a great relationship with myself for many, many years. And that's what I started to do. And it does take time. It's not an overnight thing. But gosh, it's worth it. And it helps you create a completely different life. Hey.
It does. Yeah. I think, and I always say, I think we've had this conversation before, you and I, but it's like, you know, inherently,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like, whether or not it's, should I do this? Should I, like, inherently, like, you know,
Yeah. Just need to turn down that noise. Hey.
yeah.
Turn down the external noise. So, what do you think has been your biggest key learning in business so far?
Ooh,
If you had to pick one,
whoa. That is so hard to
I
just
know.
pick one. I feel like I call them learnings, like failure and
I
learnings.
love that.
Like I make them so often and
Yeah.
I love it. I think my biggest learning in business, for some reason, this just came into my mind, but it's if I help others, and this was probably not the answer you were looking for, but like this is the first thing that came to my mind. But if I help others step into their purpose,
Yeah.
they will step into theirs,
Yeah.
is what comes to mind. I
Yeah.
think my biggest learning in business is now that success is just not for me measured by the dollars. Like it's not, and it's taken a long time for me to arrive at a point where I used to be obsessed over looking at our zero, our financials. Don't get me wrong, I still do. It's important to know your numbers.
Yeah.
But I used to attach my identity literally to it
Yeah.
when something bad happens, I'm like, "Oh no," because I was my business. I am my business. Like literally, I am Wordfetti. I am X business. And that is dangerous
Mm.
because two reasons. One, when so much of your identity is tied to this business, it then makes it hard for you to stop doing work.
Yeah.
Like just stop working because you're like, who am I outside of this business? And that's why so many people struggle to stop and they keep working until they burn out
Yeah.
because they don't know who they are if they just stop working.
Yeah. Too
Just
much
so
of their
much of their
identity is
yeah.
caught up. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
equally, when something wobbles and you're in business, so if you're in business or even in a corporate career, if something wobbles, if you attach so much of yourself to
Yeah.
it, then when that goes wrong, you then make it about you, you then
Yeah.
feel bad, you then don't show up, you then do XYZ. So now I see so much of like it's separate. Like
Yeah.
Anita is Anita. Anita's created Wordfetti. Anita's created this.
Yeah.
Anita's created that. But they're separate. That doesn't mean I don't care about these businesses or these things that I've got, but they're separate. And I now much rather measure my success based on the transformation and life changes I get to make personally. This is my definition. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's just one person, like, if I can impact even just one life in my year, in my month, like, that is so special, like, to
Yeah.
me to know there's a gazillion people in this world and I get to be that person that, I don't know, plants a seed in someone else's and that is their sliding door moment to
Yeah.
creating something for themselves, which
Yeah.
comes back to if I step into my, purpose, then I feel like I help others step into theirs. So long-winded
Absolutely.
answer, but yeah, I think just looking at the business not as Anita. It's a
No. So
part of me.
yeah, you're not your business, you have a business. Yeah?
That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. And you've made an impact on me in many, many
Oh,
ways, darling, so there you go. Mission accomplished.
oh.
What, what has been your biggest highlight? Again, if you could pick one, and I know that's hard, but what's been your biggest highlight as a business owner?
I would probably say that was for me last year. So I took my mum on I know this sounds really just, I don't know whether we want to call it materialistic or whatever, but I have had the desire to take my mum. She's never been on business class.
Yeah,
She's never also spoiled herself. She's
yeah,
never let herself be spoiled. She's
yeah,
always been quite frugal. She's always been saving all the things so that she could
yeah,
give it to me and put me in the best education. But there was also that flip 360 where I'm like, no, we're going to freaking spoil you like rotten.
yeah,
So for me, the biggest highlight, as soon as you asked me that question, isn't even business. Like it is the fact that the business has
yeah,
helped like allowed for me to now, spoil my mom and
Yeah.
she and my dad, like, poured in so much to put me in. They worked like crazy and
Yeah.
put me in the best education, wanted me to have the absolute best, and now I want her to have the best, the other way around. And I think for me, the most beautiful thing about the business has been that, like, to be able to
Yeah.
uh create these moments for my mum. I'm about to go to a little holiday with her. I'm taking her to Hobart. She's never been there.
Yeah.
Taking her to discover the world, when
Yeah.
she used to take me to discover the world. Um, I would also say the other part of that is now the impact I get to choose to like create.
Yeah.
This could be in little things like this, but it's now in, being able to choose, where I want to like pour in my time, pour in money, resources to fuel other
Yeah.
elements as well. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that was the first thing that came to my mind.
That's beautiful. So
My
again,
outline.
it's not about the business per se, is it? It's around when you choose business ownership, it allows you to make different choices in so many aspects of your life.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And to be able to spoil your mum is lovely. But it's interesting as well, and I wonder if this is mainly a gendered thing, is when we start to talk about money or spending money on something like a business class flight, there's this discomfort that comes with it that we feel like we have to apologize. And I
Mm,
think it's important we kind of go, we don't need to apologize for that. I think if we have
mm,
privilege, then we need to acknowledge it.
yeah,
But we're also allowed to want for things. And as women, we are allowed to want to be successful. We are allowed to want to make a lot of money. We are allowed to go out there and do that. We've been socialized into staying small, staying quiet,
damn right,
not
yeah.
being successful. And I say, sod that. If that's the life you want, then that's the life you can start making choices for yourself. So good on you. And I think that's just beautiful. I remember seeing it on Instagram and you and your mum are just the cutest ever.
But I love that you called that out as well and mentioned that. I think it's one of those things where, um and it's tricky. It's almost like you and it's all of our different types of narratives, right? Because
Mm,
to some
yeah,
people, you might be like, "Yeah, that's so fair," but for some people, and based on our own definition of what greed, what
yeah,
success, what, all of that is, you could hear that and be like, "Oh, like, that's a
yeah,
bit, greedy," or, "That's a bit
yeah,
blah," but that's again, I go back to, it's our responsibility to tell or speak our truth,
yeah.
but not our responsibility on how other people read it.
No. And also, if people are holding those beliefs, again, get to know yourself, because are they actually your thoughts and beliefs? Or are they
Mhm.
things that you've picked up along the way that are stopping you from making choices that you want to make in your life, whether that's about earning more money or working less or doing things differently? It doesn't matter what it is, but we hold so many beliefs that we've picked up from very early in life, and they're not always helpful for us. So it's like, do
Mm-mm.
an audit. Is this my thinking? Are these my beliefs? Or do I need to leave them where they belong and actually get to know what I want for my life? Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, Anita, I've got so many more questions for you, and I can see the time's running along. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of ask you, and I think we've touched on this, but how your work has influenced your own life and how you now see yourself, perhaps compared to how you previously saw yourself.
How work has influenced my life. I think, the when you first when you just said that question, immediately in my mind, I think, isn't it interesting how there is this concept of work that is part of our life that we're supposed to be, doing the thing to make the dula like the mullah and then use it to buy things in our that enrich our life or whatever it
Mhm.
might be for you. Um, I think for me, what has been really interesting has been seeing the overlap between what I see work to be, like good work,
Yeah.
and what a good life is, and
Yeah.
seeing the overlap.
Yeah.
So, highly recommend. you, like anyone listening to this, I did this exercise. You can actually do it. I didn't create this exercise. It's by designing your life. It's a design thinking methodology where it was created by Stanford University, and they actually got you to really think about what what is work?
Yeah.
Like, what is work? Like, what makes good work? What makes,
Yeah.
like, not so good work? And what is a good life? Like,
Yeah.
and it gets very deep. I love deep, but it's like, what makes good work? Why do we work? And what makes a good life? And there's a lot of other questions. You can just Google it. Like, it's like a
Yeah.
designing your life questions. But looking at the work view and life view and seeing
Yeah.
what overlaps for me were three things. One, learning. So
Yeah.
I love learning in
Mm.
both life and business. I love
Yeah.
learning. And biggest reason why I experiment a lot, the biggest thing where I learn a lot. The other element to that is freedom. Now, freedom is very easy to say, but
Yeah.
getting really specific of freedom is freedom in decision making, freedom in creative play, in
Yeah.
creative ideas, in being able to look at a way that has been done traditionally and being like, you know what, I can do it very differently. So
Yeah.
it's like getting really clear on what that is for me. And the final element for me is legacy. Like, I feel like again, going back to even just one person, like just this element of, meeting someone, you just never know. Like, you could literally go to a cafe. If you go to a cafe every single day and you've never talked to your barista, like even just having a conversation with them,
Yeah.
you don't know. That could
Connection.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, but same with work, right? So that for
Yeah.
me has always been the thing. And it's funny because that's also how Dean and I, my husband now, got first connected. It was simply through me sliding into his Facebook messages, and I started conversation. Like, and we just talked through that. Like, we had mutual friends, but we never had a genuine conversation
Yeah.
until a Facebook chat. And I think that was a big sliding door moment for me, obviously. But it's
Yeah.
like so much you could change someone's life. Your life can change simply by um that element of connection and approaching it from a space of that. Um, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that you
Yeah.
you can actually
Absolutely.
impact someone's life through a very micro moment.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's great, getting people to think about what is work and what is life and what is a good work and good life. And your sense of freedom reminded me of something, and this this will probably sound really self-absorbed. But I have a joke with my husband about when things aren't going, if things aren't in the world the way I think I would prefer them to be, or that I kind of see and think, oh, why would that be done like that? We have this kind of joke that about Hayley Land, that it wouldn't be like that if it was Hayley Land. But
Oh, I love it.
what's started to happen though, which has been really helpful, and you were saying about just because people do it one way, how can I have the freedom to do it differently? I might be talking about, because obviously I've pivoted my business. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a coach as well, and I'm really building that aspect of my business. And there's lots of learning and lots of ways people do things. And I'll say to my husband, oh, this is how people are doing it and blah, blah, blah. And he might sometimes say to me, but how would it be done if it was in Haleyland? And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, that's brilliant. Of course, I don't need to do it like
Brilliant.
the way they're doing it. I need to come back to myself and how I do it, because that's what
Yes,
I bring to the table. That's what
that's
makes
right.
me different. That's what makes my business different. So, yeah.
Aw, yes, Chris.
So we all
Haley
need our own
Land.
little land. Anita Land, Haley
Yeah.
Land.
I love it. I love it.
So, given you're in business, it has its ups and downs. There are lots of learnings. It can be challenging. How important have you found it to have a support system around you whilst you're running your business? And what do you find most helpful about this?
Critical. So important.
Mm.
I think, it's critical from a few different dimensions. It's critical because the people that you surround yourself with and the circle, the inner circle, or however you want to coin that, that could be from a personal friendship lens, that could be from a professional lens in containers, will impact what you will then define as, in a way, your normal, new normal. If you
Yeah.
surround yourself with people who just are not in that level or that same wavelength, then you might be like, oh, yeah, okay, maybe not. Maybe I won't. Like,
Yeah.
and it just takes, I do believe it's contagious. I do believe energy is contagious.
Oh,
So
there's
for
research that'll
me,
back you up on that. There's absolutely
yeah,
research that'll back you up on that.
absolutely. And I think it's been critical for me in terms of just making sure that I have and support network is like I said, it's not just in the work sense. So I have a great team. I
Yeah,
have also, great like support networks in the realm of business, but it's also support networks outside. Like, I also have a therapist. I love my therapist.
mm,
I have a therapist. I also have, other support networks that I lean on beyond
yeah,
just business, but is a opportunity for me to it's almost like creating your own board,
yeah,
like to support you in life and business, like, Dean, my husband, my friends who don't own a business, like, so curating your support system doesn't mean just work. I think it's like looking
yeah,
at it again as your entire life.
yeah,
And yes, work is one key component. And where do you want to go and how can you get the right people? I do believe it's always the who, not just the what. Like who
yeah,
can you get to really support you in propelling you to that next level?
yeah,
It's been critical, like community, people, connections, critical,
yeah, yeah.
in, what I believe, is key for business growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you make a good point that it's not just about business, is it? I have my
Mhm.
own therapist as well. Obviously, I'm a therapist. I believe in people having therapy. I'm a coach. I have, I work with you in a mastermind. I'm a
Yeah.
business coach. I believe in having
Yep.
business support, but also people who you're not talking about that stuff with. People you can just go and do something else that's nothing to do with
Yeah.
business and just talk
Where you can
about
just
whatever.
be.
You
Yeah,
just,
where you can
yeah,
just be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, this is a question that I ask all my guests, and it's my favorite question. If you could meet your 80-year-old self, what do you think she would say to you?
Hmm. Ooh. Well, first of all, 80-year-old Anita will be fabulous,
Oh, yes,
and
she
she
will.
will she will be fabulous wearing a very colorful dress, I hope. Um, I think she would I think she would probably be like just experience more and create more special moments. And don't be afraid don't be afraid to put yourself out there and trailblazing a path, even if it
Mm,
feels uncomfortable, because I do sometimes feel uncomfortable doing
yeah.
things a little bit differently,
Yeah.
launching things a different way. I feel uncomfortable
Mm,
because there is no proven track record from that I'm leaning on, right? And I get nervous, but I think, yeah, my 80-year-old self will be like, experience more and have more fun and, just freaking don't be afraid to put yourself out there and do things that are a little bit different because you might then find just like the juju, like the juice there, the treasure.
yeah. I've
I
got a
feel like that's what she
feeling.
would say.
I have a feeling she's also going to say to you, "Thank you, darling, for seeing how to do it differently and taking those brave steps and doing it differently and taking me on such a wonderful journey." I'm
Aw,
sure she will say something
a
like that to
colorful
you.
life.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to find out more about you or get in touch, what's the best way that they can do that? And I'll put some links in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so find me personally on Instagram, Anita Siek, ANITASIEK. And you can also find Wordfetti, which is the Wordfetti copywriting house I was talking about over on Instagram, Wordfetti. And you can find also a freebie if you're really intrigued in the realm of copywriting and language. We have an incredible freebie, wordfettigroup.com/freebie, where every day over 5 days, we drop in with like a 5-minute lesson on copywriting to uplevel it. So, yeah.
Well, well worth it. One of the things I love about the way you do copywriting is you teach it in a way that is so easy to take on board and take action with. So I'd highly recommend people go grab that. And also if you could distill it down into one piece of advice, and again, I know that can be tricky, what would you want our listeners to take away from our conversation today?
I'd say to bring it back home, make decisions based on the person you want to become or the business you want to become instead of the business or the person that you want to maintain or band-aid.
Beautiful. I love that. Anita, I always love being in touch with you. Your energy energizes me. I think you're wonderful. And thank you so much for coming on my little potty.
So much fun. Thank you, Hayley, for having me.
Thank you so much. Take care, darling. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. I hope our time together has been helpful and supportive. If there has been something in this episode that you have found helpful, I invite you to share it with another person you think might benefit. If you've benefited in any way from the podcast, please do me a favour and show my pod some love by giving it a 5-star rating and review. Ratings, reviews and shares really help to increase awareness and reach of the podcast, allowing this helpful information to be spread more widely. All reviews are welcome and much appreciated. If you do share on socials, remember to tag me so I can see who's listening, because you never really know over here in podcast land, and I can reach out personally to say thank you. If you'd like to be notified when the next episode airs, please use the link in the show notes to join our mailing list. If you have any particular topics you'd like to learn more about, or guests you'd like to hear from, please reach out and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Music and editing by Nissa Ray. Thanks, Nissa. I wish you all well in your relationship with yourself and your business. May you go well and go gently. And remember, if you thrive, your business can too.